Welcome to Lymphatic Technology Institute, where we're bringing the world into a higher vibration. And I am so excited to have Desiree De Spong with me. She is one of the world's leading lymphologists, and we're going to talk about lymphedema. This is something that a lot of people don't even realize that they may have, or it's just not been recognized. And so I asked her if she could spend some time with us today and just go into some of the things that she has seen over the years regarding lymphedema. And here is the lymphatic goddess.
Thanks, Michelle. So lymphedema is an area that's, there's a lot of fear around it, a lot of misunderstood information, and but there's also a lot of misunderstanding around lymphedema. So we're going to just talk about it, a brief overview today to just sort of enlighten people. So basically, lymphedema is a malfunction of the lymphatic system. So, it's a mechanical failure. And there's this thing called protein-rich plasma protein that ends up in the tissue space. So that's leaked from the vascular or blood system, and it starts to accumulate fluid. So you could pretty much say any swelling is a form of lymphedema, but under the medical terminology, we look at a primary or a secondary. So primary lymphedema is you're actually born with it, okay? So it can happen at birth. You can develop it around puberty, or you can go on to have it later on in age. And so there's sort of three types of that. One's a reduced number of the lymphatic vessels. The other one can be that the actual vessels that are pumping the lymph are actually not functioning correctly, or there can actually be an absence of the lymphatic system. So I've had cases where just one whole left side, so the arm, the breast, chest area, the stomach, the leg, and the ankle swollen, but the right spine. So it can present itself in many different ways. It can just be lower leg lymphedema. It can be arms. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the whole body. In secondary lymphedema, most people know about this. This is when you've had lymph nodes removed subject to cancer. So it's a common situation now with breast cancer. They take out a sentinel node, which is usually done in sort of a location near the armpit, and then that can make you more susceptible. The thing is, though, with primary lymphedema, I have seen it for so long now, where I actually believe there's more to this, where we have a lot more people managing lymphedema as opposed to being fat. So you look at the scenario, right? You would have seen them in your clinic. You get these women coming in and they say, I've got cankles, and my mother had cankles, and my nana had cankles. And so you start to realize that it's been a genetic thing that's gone on for years, and they're not actually fat. They're dealing with some lymphatic issue that no one's really thought to look into from a medical point of view, because, to be honest, it's not easy to actually measure that, manage that. So some people are somewhat significantly relieved when they find out that they could actually have an issue with their body as opposed to them being fat. And they're the people that have done all the dieting, they exercise, they're healthier than me a lot of the time, and they still have this condition. So the incidence of it can be quite higher with cancer, secondary, because it's incurred due to lymph nodes. Now, one thing I want to take away is the fear around that. Not everyone gets lymphedema. And the stats are that it's that first year of those lymph nodes being removed. And often it's the genital type cancers that have the higher incidence. So they can be between 50 to 80%. Whereas like breast can be 24 to 49, and then you're sort of getting into melanomas that are sort of 40 to 75. So not everyone gets it, but it is a time to be aware that prevention is better than cure. So we really want to make a difference. We want to be able to start getting that lymph moving. I have a philosophy similar to a PT. Let's move it, let's get it going, and let's get any obstruction out the road. So one of the wonderful things I got an opportunity to do was Dr. Beth Dupree, who is a surgeon. She was up in Pennsylvania at the time, and now she's down in Arizona. Let me come in and observe her. And she let me watch 3 different breast cancer surgeries. And we did a sentinel node biopsy, and I got the really cool option of being in all the gear and actually got to feel the lymph nodes. and
Wow.
they're actually quite resilient. So they actually, you can press and they release. And so, but what it showed me was when they were in surgery, certain structural issues came about. So especially in first and third rib with breast cancer, because your arms are out, you've got tubes going in, you're kind of, when you come out, you kind of vomit the tube back out, and you've got all this tension going on. So sometimes lymphedema comes from structural issues as well as lymphatics. So we want to look at it multifaceted, not just. But the main thing I want to come back to is not everyone gets lymphedema. They usually say if it's going to occur in the first year, there's a 60% chance. And then after that, it's very, very minimal. So you said it before, we were talking before this, how you have clients come in and they say, I've had them all removed, right?
Yes, I just had that happen the other day.
Yeah, so not all of them are removed. We really don't know how many. We know that there's anywhere between 600 to 900 lymph nodes in our body. They say there can be, say, around about 60 around the whole site of a chest or breast area. So when they go in and take a cluster of lymph nodes, they're usually, say, for example, with breast, it's in the axilla, but you still have them running down the side, which is your pectoral, you have them parasternal, and you have them at the back in your subscap. So there's lots of options to get stuff moving. So my thing is about teaching you the awareness to it. So in other words, what are the first signs? So what are the first signs that you see with swelling in your clinic?
With swelling, well, when people walk in, they just say, oh, well, I'm just so fat, I need to lose some weight. But then I look here at the main drains first, and a lot of times they're so puffy you can't even see a collarbone. So I know right away we have an issue with the main drain. So we have to get that moving and get that flowing. And then I start working my way down to see where an obstruction is. And oftentimes they'll drop anywhere from 3 to 8 pounds in just one session. And they just think that it's fat, but it's not fat. It's just that excess fluid that the body's holding on to. So right in here and the puffy face, the neck area, those are areas that I look at first when I'm dealing with that sort of situation.
Yeah. And it occurs with lower leg, so your lower extremities, your leg lymphedema as well. You're still going to get puffy here, right? So some of the other things we want to look for is to recognize is the swelling of the fingers. So your rings start to get tight. You may notice that one of your arm sleeves is getting a bit tighter on one side to the other. You may notice that you can't put your shoes on the same, or the big giveaway in ankles is when you wear the socks and they've got the ridging left at the end of the day. That's a good indicator that there's swelling going on. That's not normal, a little bit at the end of the day, but not where there's a big obvious dip. So there are the things that we're sort of teaching people with lymphedema. Start being aware of your body, get an awareness to what's going on. And if you've got shoulder issues, like you're holding on, a lot of people end up with bursitis or frozen shoulder, because let's look at it from a point of view of breast cancer. You know, it's quite a shock and you're holding on. And so you may find that that's an obstruction. If there's lower leg or leg lymphedema, there could be an obstruction in the pelvis area. So you've got a sore back. Things like that can. So that's when you want your osteos or your chiros or your PTs involved to try and get you moving again, because surgery alone will impact on structure. So that's why we call structure equals function. We're really big in lymphatics, that we look at you holistically, not just from a little, let's see if we can get your vessels moving. We want to really see what's going on. So for me, teaching you what the awareness of what to look for. Now, self-care is huge. So for us, we talk about a number of things. So you've given out already a video on breathing. Yes. So diaphragmatic breathing is one of the most powerful ways to move lymph in the chest area, but also in the lower leg area as well.
And that's where they'll find it when they're in a session and I teach them how to breathe. They'll start actually feeling that lymph movement up the legs and into their abdominal area. And they're like, I've never felt that before. What is that? That's movement. That's your lymph that's flowing.
Yeah. So, and it's also engaging parasympathetic. Now, Parasympathetic is our part of our nervous system, and that we know that the lymphatics drain more efficiently when you're engaging parasympathetic. So the breath is cheap, it's easy to do once you've got an understanding, but it is one of the things that we really encourage you to do from a lymphatic point of view when there's been any lymphedema involved. One of the other things is obviously exercise, movement, but not, this doesn't mean going out for a major triathlon run or anything like this. This is about moving in your life. Lymphatics doesn't have a pump like the heart. So we're so reliant on muscle movement or skeletal movement to be able to encourage those lymphatic vessels to pump. So that's another area we really encourage. We've got rebounding. You did a great video the other day on, ball. Yeah, what do you call them? A bounce?
Like
what do you call them over there?
Stability ball. I
Yeah.
call that big exercise ball.
Yeah, so if you can't jump on a rebounder, you can use that. There's also those amazing that you can buy them for home. They're just a small vibration plate. But make sure if you're going to use them, they're not too intense. Like you kind of wanted a little bit of a movement, but nothing that's sort of feeling like your bones are rattling. That's just a little bit too much for the body. But there is vibration plates that you can get. There's also a unit called the chi machine that you lie down and you put your ankles in and it creates a movement. Or you can even put your feet up at the end of a lounge suite couched kind of scenario with a pillow, and you just, if you've got lower lymphedema, is just palpating against the pillow with your feet acts as a resistance. Or you can use sort of anything that's got some resistance to it to try and get the movement, because the key is movement.
And I actually do that when I'm on an airplane for a very long time. When you can't get up and down, if you're in that window seat, I'm doing that movement right there to help not get any swelling on my feet, because I used to fly and my shoes wouldn't fit when I got off the airplane.
Yeah, it's the same.
So.
Horrible, especially those long haul flights.
Yeah.
The other one is we talk about compression garments, and they're often issued especially for arm lymphedema, but also leg lymphedema. Now, if you've got any swelling in your legs and you've never been issued a compression garment, there's always things like, do you have skins in the United States? Like compression pants that a lot of the sports people are using now.
Yes, we have those.
I find they're better than say the flight socks, because they only go up to the knee. And the problem with that is it can cause swelling and a tourniquet kind of scenario around that area.
Yes.
So full length up to the waist will help encourage movement of fluid. All we're trying to do is help the system work more effectively, give it a chance to actually create, and so this material is designed to create a little bit of a compression and movement. There's a lot more arm garments now available. There are a lot more, as in, if you really have extreme secondary lymphedema, it is important that you do get fitted correctly, because again, you can come into a lot of problems. But there is some mild ones that you can buy online now. They're sort of more feminine. You can wear them under a shirt if you've only got a very mild state of lymphedema. But we do encourage that if you're unsure, go to your PT or come back to your oncology breast surgeon, whoever can help you, just to check it out, because if you can get that help at the very beginning, you'll actually shut that whole lymphedema down. And that's
absolutely.
One of the other things we work with, we have a lymphedema lymphologist in Australasia here called Neil Pillar, and one of the things he encourages is the diet, and it's removing what we call long chain fatty acids. So without going into too much depth, the digestive system is responsible for getting those proteins out, and it can slow the whole system down. So this is like your fatty foods. It's a big issue. It's like trying to come back to medium chain. Medium chain is like coconut oil, but it still can be a bit fatty. But it's going into lean meats, lots of vegetables. A BMI is a big issue. Like if you're already a little bit overweight, it's going to make you more susceptible. So it's trying to keep that weight under control. So that's another thing that we may encourage. And then we're big into self-care, right, Michelle? So we're going to be offering a self-care technique on your website on how to actually start to move. So you started teaching them how to do their terminus. So do you want to explain what we're going to be offering so that it can help them?
Yes, so it's just some of the techniques that you actually developed, and then so you brought it over here, you were teaching us, and it's just phenomenal. And you explain the different areas of the body and how we can get, so when someone does have an arm swelling, how they can get in there and they can do the pumping action. If they have lower extremities that are swollen, how we can get into that abdominal area and get those lymph nodes pumping. And so it's a very, very good laid out, nice explanation of how we can do that for ourselves, getting with the terminus, the arms, the belly, and the legs, and also behind the knees, because we do have lymph nodes back there behind the knees, and oftentimes those get neglected. So that's important, especially when we have that ankle swelling. We want to pull that, the fluid goes up anyway against gravity, so hooray. So if we can get behind the knees and help that out as well, that's going to really help the ankles from swelling.
And you're going to have that available on your website, right?
Yes, on Lymphatic Technology Institute, and I will put the link in this video so that you can click on it and just go ahead and download it. It's a free PDF that you created actually for your clients, right? In the beginning.
So we put your gorgeous face in for this one.
Thank you.
So just one more thing I want to add, because we don't want to, be talking for too long, obviously, is that to eliminate fluid, we need our kidneys functioning correctly. Now, our kidneys, yes, from an Eastern philosophy, they're our vitality, our chi. From a mechanical point of view, they're actually regulating our fluids. So we want to encourage movement of fluid. And so for me, I'm a big believer in supporting kidney function. Now, kidneys need a sodium-potassium ratio to function correctly. So that's what our cells bathe in is actually a saline solution. So it's not pure water. Our water is designed to help us flush and hydrate, but there's also the element of the composition of that fluid. So if we haven't got that right, the body will hold on to fluid more as well, and they won't release. So it won't be moving that lymph out in a way because it's thinking it's dehydrated, even though you feel like you're filled with fluid. So for us, there's some natural diuretics you can do. So parsley tea is actually really good for helping the body to move fluid. Asparagus, not always loved by everyone, but it is awesome.
But I'm actually going to have a video with a chef on how to cook asparagus the right way. So we'll be looking for that one.
Good. See, another tool to help. And so then also also look at electrolytes. Electrolytes without the sugar in those. So the proper ones that are developed for improving that saline solution in your body. So you want to, they're just usually drops, or you can get comprehensive mineral drops. But again, what we're trying to do is see if we can improve the body's ability to recognize it's out of sync. So the problem is that with lymphedema, without getting into too technical, it creates this protein load, and then that causes some serious lymphatic vessels to start creating because it knows it's in trouble, and all this sort of behavior starts happening where we want to stop that. We want to try and help the body go, actually, I'm hydrated, I need to dump the fluid, my kidneys need some help. So even like do you call them Wheaties? I think you call them in the US. We call them wheat bags, with the, you heat them up and then you put them.
Yeah,
yes.
Some people will have like rice bags, and yeah, you just heat them.
Yes, yeah. So we can, by placing one of those on your kidneys. So if you don't know where your kidneys are, just think of your waistline at your back, and then they're just sitting in under your rib cage there. So every night you can just sit with that on your kidneys. And I know it's getting warm over there, but you'll be surprised how many people will enjoy that and how soothing it is. And that's about getting blood supply to the kidneys. We want them. They're an organ that's vital to remove the fluid. So we want those functioning well. So that's just a little add-on that you can put into your regime.
I'm glad you said that, because a lot of people don't correlate kidney, well, anything with lymphedema, because they just don't know about it.
No, and it's a fallacy where you say that I don't drink water because I never get rid of it, and I have enough water, I'm so fluidy. The body will go into a response of survival. If you don't drink water, it will hold on. So we drink water to help the body flush and cleanse. So it's important as part of our lymphedema regime.
I love that. Yes, and I've actually heard that before. I don't want to drink any water because I hold too much water. So thank you for saying that.
It's an important part of it. Well, hopefully that helps everyone just come on board with a couple more ideas, but it is about prevention. It is about supporting yourself. So the regime that Michelle's going to put up on her website, do that every day. Dry skin brushing, you've given that as now with you and Kelly, you've both described how to do that. Another one that they can do. So there's lots of things that people can do to support themselves, but always do consider the concept of, if my shoulder's sore, my shoulder's out, something's wrong, or I've got pelvic issues, that can be causing the obstruction to the way the fluid moves as well. So that's just another area to consider when you're working through what's happening for you personally.
I love that. Yes. So that's why
Well,
chiropractors are great friends.
oh yeah, we've all got our team that we use, and I think it's an important part. No one thing can do it alone. And so yeah, so anyway, lovely to talk to you, and hopefully that gives a little bit of insight for everyone. And we can, if there's any questions, they can always contact you, Michelle, and we can always do another one of these if there's more that's needed.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your thoughts. And I know that everybody's just going to love it because they've been asking for this. So thanks for coming on, because you say things so much better than I do, and I love it. And yeah, we love you here in America, and can't wait for you to get back over.
Yeah, me either, but yeah, all the best from New Zealand.
All right, thanks.
Bye.